Good morning, everyone. It's Lee Henson, President and Founder of AgileDad, and it's time for today's edition of the Daily Stand-Up. And without any further ado, let's get started. It is Monday, January 18th, and it's a very special day. Today is the day that we honor and celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King. Now, many of you may not know a lot about his life and a lot about the things that he stood for. And if you don't, I encourage you to go and do the research and learn more about him. He has been probably, I shouldn't say has been probably. He was one of the world's greatest civil rights activists. And the thing that impressed me the most about him, he did great work in the civil rights movement, but some of the other things that he said and some of the other things that he stood for as a Baptist minister and the way he lived his life added great value to our lives. So I thought I'd share with you today the top 5 quotes from Dr. King, many of which may surprise you, but these were hand selected. I found hundreds and hundreds of quotes that I could have chosen from. As I go through these quotes, I want to remind you and encourage you that these quotes were written in the 1960s. So anywhere where it says a man or men, you can insert that to be anyone. It could be a man or woman, right? So we can make sure that we have all our bases covered. But what I can tell you is that these 5 quotes actually change the structure of how you think about things, and they change the way that you deal with complex problems. So I thought I'd do it in more of a narration story type format because I think that's probably going to be the coolest way to do it. So these are in no particular order of importance, but just in the order that I found to be most effective from a learning perspective. So coming in at number 1, which happens to probably be at the top of my list. Our lives begin to end the day that we become silent about things that matter. One of the things that I try to teach in all my Agile Dad classes is that you have to stand up for what's right. You have to practice radical candor. You have to follow Kim Scott's advice. You have to have the tough conversations. You have to do the things that are going to separate you from everyone else. You have to find ways to align yourself with always doing what's right, even if it's not always popular. And sometimes that means having difficult conversations. One of the things that I say that helps companies and organizations really succeed in Agile is when they stop being quiet, when they start being vocal about things that need to change, when they start being vocal about how they can work together. Those are all keys that'll help them be successful. And I think that Dr. King nailed it there, whether it's a social activism or whether it's something you need to do at work, you need to speak up. You can't be silent and have positive things happen. Number 2, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. And I think that this ties so well into the first one. It just shows you that when there's a challenge, or when there's a controversy, or when there's a why are we doing this, or when there's a let's have a discussion about those hard topics, that's when the doors are open. That's when the floodgates are open for brainstorming, for opinions, for the ability for you to project, for you to figure things out. And what I can tell you is I've had more reward and greater success during times of challenge and controversy than I've ever had when I was completely comfortable. I often find that when you're comfortable, it's just a temporary placement in a zone, waiting for you to do something bigger or better. It's like you're telling yourself you're being patient with yourself to try to do something more. Um, and this leads to the third quote. It says, "If a man hasn't discovered something that he will die for, he isn't fit to live." One of the top 3 keys to success that I teach at every one of my keynote presentations that I've given is that you have to have something, a dream. You have to have something, and it's not a pun. It's something that I've taught forever, that you have to have a dream. And it was stemmed in the I Have a Dream speech, obviously. But it's one of those things where you have to have something that you're willing to put your heart, mind, soul, and energy into. You have to have a passion. You have to have something that drives you. You have to have something that motivates you. You have to have something that pushes you to go that much further. You have to have something that just gives you the confidence that you need to accelerate. Something that gives you that synergy. Something that draws you stronger towards success, right? And oftentimes it's hard. It's hard for you to make those pivots and those adjustments. It's hard for you to figure out and commit. It's hard for you to decide that this is something you really want to do. And that leads to the next quote, which was, take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. This reminds me tightly of the 12-step program that we teach. It's not a matter of being dogmatic and having everything perfect, but if you know you want to move in a direction, if you don't take a step to get there, the first step's often the hardest. Once you take the first step, the next step is going to be easier, and then the next step easier. It's almost like a weight loss journey. I remember when I lost my first couple of pounds, I was feeling confident, but still not where I needed to be. But had I not started with losing those first couple of pounds, I wouldn't have been at 56 pounds today. So it's just one of those things where you've really got to figure out where you're going, what direction you're trying to go, what life you're trying to live, and take that first step in your journey. It's going to be very beneficial to you. And that leads to the next quote. And I realize I may do more than five here. Whatever your life's work is, do it well. A man should do his job so well that the living, the dead, and the unborn could do it no better. I love that, right? If you want to make a difference, do your job like it doesn't matter. Do your job like nobody can do it better. Do your job in such a way that people are going to go, man, that guy's rocking or that gal's rocking. That person is doing it so well that there's nobody on earth that does it better than they do. We try so hard to do this in every effort that we have, whether it's training, coaching, teaching, certification, doesn't matter. We try so hard to do it like nobody else does it. We try hard to tie in a humanized approach and a psychology based approach. And it makes me proud to say that I'm following the guidance of Dr. King. Next, we have, you know, this was kind of the closing thought, if you will. And it's sensitive. When I first read it, it made me tear up a little bit because it made me think about the state of the world today. And not much has changed since Dr. King had these quotes and today in many ways. And I have to admit that disappoints me. My hope was that as a civilization, as a people, that we could learn and grow from all these different things. But what I've found is hate has run rampant. And it doesn't matter what side of the political leaning you're on, or the color of your skin, or who you are, what you do, or who you love, or who you worship. None of those things should matter. This quote just kind of put it all together for me. I'm going to try to get through it without getting overly emotional. It says, like an unchecked cancer, hate corrodes the personality and eats away its vital unity. Hate destroys a man's sense of values and his objectivity. It causes him to describe the beautiful as ugly and the ugly as beautiful, and to confuse the true with the false and the false with the true. If you've ever attended one of my classes before, you know the quote I'm about to say. What you just heard was wisdom. These are the principles that we're going through today. This is what's happening all around us. People are confusing hate, and they're allowing hate to destroy where we are. They're confusing beautiful and ugly. They're confusing true with false. They're confusing science with fiction. It's amazing to see where we are today as a society, and unfortunately how little we've grown in many cases. What I'm trying to say here is Dr. Martin Luther King stood for something. He stood for being better. He stood for being better humans and better people. He stood for providing us with the tools that we needed to think deeper, to evaluate where we are and who we were and what we stood for and what we believed in and what direction we wanted to take things. And I feel like some of those things are certainly missing today. It's my hope that you'll accept the challenge and do a little more to do a little better. I think it's just, if we each took the opportunity not to change everything about our lives, but just to do a little better, to find a way to be an honorable person, to find a way to give back, to find a way to take that first step in faith, to find a way to, not worry about the rest of the staircase, but take a step in the right direction. Stand up for what's right, even in times of challenge and controversy. Do the things that you need to do. And when your life begins to matter and you begin to make a difference, that's when you'll find true happiness and lose yourself in the service of others. Happy Monday. I hope you enjoyed this holiday. If you happen to be listening today, it's a holiday here in the United States. Do tune in to future episodes of the Daily Stand-Up. We got lots of other Agile topics to cover, but I thought this would be a cool topic to cover today. Not necessarily Agile, but it does tie into the things that we do. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay Agile, my friends. Until next time, Do take care.